Welcome back to the channel. Racer X here, and I am back with my good buddies at Bob Tom's Ford. They are in McKinney, Texas, and they have a pretty cool car. This is a car that I have been trying to show you guys for a while now, and what I really want to do is compare the regular Mustang GT to the brand new Mach-E Mustang GT. Should this thing really be considered a Mustang at all? It is incredibly different. I will show you guys all the little features and quirks on this thing and compare it performance-wise to what you get with a ICE or internal combustion Mustang GT. It should be a fun little comparison. If you're new to my channel, please do me a big gigantic favor. Please subscribe. Right down here in the corner is where you can find that button. Also hit the bell for more of my new content as it comes out. And here we go. And there you have it. That is the Mach-E Mustang GT all-electric dual motor Mustang that they recently came out with. Matter of fact, for 2022, you cannot even order a Mach-E. They are huge demand for these right now, which is incredible to think about. And for comparison's sake, I went ahead and put my 2020 Mustang GT right next to it, just to show you how incredibly different these two cars are. And when I keep telling people, a lot of people just absolutely hate this new EV movement, and I get it to some degree. Obviously, they don't sound the same, they don't look the same, they're just very different, but that's not always bad. Today I want to talk a little bit about the performance on these two cars and some of obviously the huge differences between them. Now I just want to come right out of the gate and give you the specs on these two when it comes to performance. So on this Mach-E Mustang GT, I mean, it is pretty impressive. So 480 horsepower is what it makes, which is 20 more than this particular car and 30 more than the 2022 version of the Mustang GT, but 634 pound-feet of torque at almost 0 RPM is what this car makes. Very impressive torque numbers, and you're looking at 420 in the internal combustion or regular Mustang GT. That is a vast difference, and this thing will actually go 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. That is a really impressive figure. It takes more than a full second longer in a standard Mustang GT to do the same thing. So you've got to give that some consideration. Even the front of this car is very, very different. If you look here, obviously we're dealing with two electric motors. There's really no need for cooling on the inside. So you can see, you know, there's just a few places for the air to sort of pass through the car here. And then of course, when you look at the regular Mustang GT, you have to think about cooling down that engine. So you got to take in a lot of cool air here in the front. So just vastly different. And this car does sit up a significant amount higher. I mean, this is actually an SUV, guys. That is the weird thing about this, is it wears a Mustang nameplate, but it is literally a small SUV with 4 doors. And I mean, just look how much smaller the Mustang, the actual Mustang, is in comparison, or the regular Mustang GT. I mean, it's just like night and day. This thing actually weighs almost 5,000 pounds. It's like 4,960 pounds or something like that. Whereas this weighs like 3,650 pounds, a base Mustang GT. So you're talking about like a 1,300 pound weight difference between these two, yet this one is still significantly faster. Now, we are pretty used to what the back of a Mustang GT looks like. As we know, even if you jump all the way up to the Shelby, the backs of these cars, you know, they do look pretty similar, and you've got kind of this really nice slanted shape to this car. Very low slung, you know, sporty style vehicle. As we jump over here to the Mach-E, obviously completely different. You've got almost like a little roof type spoiler here, and something you would almost catch from like a hatchback. So, I mean, you do see, it does say it is a GT right here. They tried to retain sort of the look of the taillights of the Mustang GT, the normal Mustang GT, but then it just looks really, really different from back here. I mean, the window, you can see they tried to kind of retain a little bit of that Mustang shape, but it just looks very, very different. And how weird is it to be able to get into a Mustang and then open up the back and have this hatch area? It's just nothing we've ever been able to do in a Mustang before. So very different look from the back of this car. Now, the Mach-E does boast significantly bigger brakes than you would see on the standard Mustang GT. You can see that this has got the little 4-piston Brembos on there. I mean, they're powerful. but in terms of just braking power, this is a much more significant set of brakes that the Mach-E has on it, and justifiably so. Like I said, this thing is 1,300 pounds heavier, and it makes a lot more torque, and it's actually significantly faster. So they did account for that with the braking system on this car. Now, one other little thing that Ford did, you can see the shape of the headlight in the Mustang GT. If you jump up here to the Mach-E, which is about 8 inches higher, you can see they did kind of try and retain that same little mean eyebrow shape, but it slants back at a bit of a different angle. So I can see kind of where they tried to sort of make it look like a Mustang, but they do look significantly different. Now, another really significant difference between these two cars, and partly why this is so fast from 0 to 60, is because this is all-wheel drive. And of course, your standard Mustang GT has always been rear-wheel drive ever since it came out way back in the day. So now we're looking at something that's all-wheel drive. Just like a lot of these EVs, they're incredibly efficient. So these are actually 245 hard Continental street tires, and it doesn't really spin. I mean, these EVs are fantastic for what they can do. Just there's no fanfare to them. They just kind of stick and go. And it plants that 480 horsepower, that 634 pound-feet of torque very efficiently on these Continental all-season street tires. Whereas, look at the big drag pack on the back of this. We know it comes with 18 like 235s. That's the standard wheel. And of course, if you jump up to like a performance pack or whatever, you're going to get a little bit wider wheels. But certainly, you can spin the tires pretty readily on a regular Mustang GT. Now, many of you are very familiar with what the inside of one of these Mustang GTs looks like. Obviously, mine has had significant upgrades on the inside, from the steering wheel to the carbon fiber stuff, but really basic seat in this. You can get different seats in these, leather, or you can even get the optional Recaros in this, but it is a nice, comfortable place to sit. I mean, obviously, you are sitting pretty low to the ground in a Mustang. This has the 10-speed transmission, but when we jump over to the Mach-E, look at how different it is. So here you have your charging door. Obviously, you would plug your charger directly into that, whereas traditionally on the Mustangs, the fuel door is in the back. Of course, this is a 4-door car versus a 2-door car. Once again, very different. You do have your Mach-E badge on the side here. And then, of course, the way you get in it is even different. I mean, look at this. I'll go ahead and jump over here. All you do is kind of push this button and pull, and there you have it. So look at the inside of this. It's just so different. First of all, you've got this little bitty dash up here, you know, which is basically a very small screen up here. And then, but you do get this big central infotainment center right here. And that's where you do basically everything on this vehicle. And then you see that with a lot of these EVs, but you can see this is kind of unique. Obviously, you've got some control here for your volume. Here in the center, you do get your wireless phone cords, or your phone chargers, I should say, which is really nice. You got your USBs back there. And of course, your drive mode selector here. You do have a Mustang GT kind of elbow rest right here. And the seats in this are actually quite nice. As you can see, they've kind of got that orange stitching on them. And they do look significantly different, I should say, than in the regular Mustang GT. Really nice steering wheel with the orange stitching on it right here. Kind of a nice place to sit in the Mach-E. It's not got a crazy amount of bells and whistles on it, but it is very nice on the inside. And of course, as we come back here, we do get a functional second row, and there's actually quite a bit of room back here versus the regular Mustang that the second seats were kind of an afterthought in that, but big difference. And here is the seating position inside the Mach-E Mustang GT. And there's no mistaking that they are calling this thing a Mustang. But from a dash perspective, just from a seating position, it's all very different. Even here, to get out, you basically pull this. It's just vastly, vastly different than you would get in a standard Mustang GT. A big, beautiful screen here that you can do just all sorts of stuff. Drive mode selectors, all that kind of stuff. It is a nice place to sit in here. It is very, very comfortable. Visibility is really good. Let me go ahead and actually start this for you really quick, just so you can kind of see what it looks like. No noise, as you would expect. This is an EV, but yeah, now you can get a better look at that screen. So it is actually a really nice vehicle to sit in. Now, as with a lot of the other EVs out there, it is kind of fun to just sort of play with this center screen and see what all you can do. Obviously, one of the cool things I think you can do is you can go here to our drive modes, and I love this. So you do have different drive modes you can select. You have Whisper, Engage, and Unbridled, and of course I think that's the one we're going to go with, is Unbridled, most aggressive. And then if you jump down here, you can actually have it make a propulsion sound. You can turn that on or off. So that is another kind of interesting little feature about this Mustang. So let's take it down the road and see how it drives. Now, one of the first things I noticed is that this does have the look and feel of a normal driving car. A lot of the Teslas are just so different because you even control a lot of times how you drive just by messing with the iPad and going forward or going back, whatever. This has traditional kind of drive mode selections. You select your drive modes actually here, but in terms of just putting the thing in drive and reverse and all that stuff, traditional dial here, almost like you'd see on the DCT, like in the Shelby GT500. But you know, it does kind of retain a lot of that driver feel that we're used to with normal cars. And so it's not quite as big a jump like you would say to like a Tesla Plaid that has like a yoke steering wheel and just a lot of little bitty weird things about it that are so incredibly different. So there is some comfort level to the Mustang GT EV that I do kind of like. Now, I am kind of enjoying driving this thing around a little bit. I mean, you always wonder how they get so good with the suspension on a lot of these EVs, and this is no different. The suspension in this just rides really, really smooth, a lot more so than in a standard Mustang GT. But the way it comes off the line, like that is just the thing about these EVs is, you know, they make no noise, which has always been so weird for me. And then of course the fact that it's a Mustang doing it is even more weird. And then just rolling along really comfortably here at like 40 miles an hour, you get a nice little stretch and we just go, and it's just so instant. And this is different because I can actually hear the car piping in noise. So I hear the propulsion sound coming from in here somewhere. And you know, we know that it's not the car's batteries making that noise. It's the car. We're asking the car to make the propulsion sound. So it sounds very space age. It's just different. So comparing this to the acceleration in a regular Mustang GT, I have to admit, it's just that instant torque hit. That's the thing about these EVs, just that initial torque that sits you back in the seat, that make these things so incredibly formidable. So like I said, this is by far a faster car than the regular Mustang GT. It doesn't sound as good. I will be the first one to admit that. It's a little weird hearing, like, you know, laser beams or whatever it is they're pumping in to this cabin to make it sound different. And you know what? I commend them for doing something just, you know, a little bit different, sort of a little bit off the wall. Sometimes you have to try that kind of stuff. But performance-wise, I mean, there's not a whole lot else that you can argue about this. I mean, it is a faster vehicle. Now, but from a base price perspective, we know that this is already going to be at least like $22,000 more than a base Mustang GT. So it's a significantly more expensive car. It's even more expensive than like a well-equipped Mach-1 would be. So, you know, would you rather have a Mach-1 that's also rated at like 480 horsepower or like 470 for 2022, whatever it is? Basically the same horsepower, but a lot less torque. And a Mach-1 also is not nearly this fast. But it just really depends on what you like. But coming around a corner like this, all-wheel drive, those little hard tires, and look at it go. It's just instant. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's very capable. It's very comfortable. It seats 5 people quite nicely. The suspension in it is great. You know, lots of little features and stuff here. A lot of it I haven't even explored and showed you guys. I could probably make a whole video just on some of the other little quirks about this thing. And that really wasn't the purpose of the video. Really, it is, should this thing with, you know, 4 doors, 2 electric motors, you know, sitting up high, you know, it is an SUV. Should this be wearing the Mustang nameplate? And you know, my whole thing is like, I don't really like it. I wish that they had come up with some other cool name for this other than the Mustang. I mean, how many decades have we been making the Mustang? You know, and different is not always bad. I do want to stress that. I mean, just because something is different, I mean, this is the future, guys, whether you like it or not. But different is not bad. But like I said, different should come with a different name, in my opinion. Let's leave the Mustang heritage kind of to what it is. And even when you talk about things like the new E-Ray Corvette, it's still going to look basically identical to the other Corvette. This looks nothing like a Mustang to me. Even in the little areas where they tried, it just looks way too different. Now, I will freely admit, if I was looking for just a daily driver to drive to and from work and something to drive all of the time, this thing is actually quite nice. We do know they're in very high demand. They're not making them for 2022, but if you could get a hold of one of these at the right price, it would actually make for a really good daily driver. And like I said, because you could fit 4 people in it comfortably and 5 if you really wanted to, it really kind of works for every occasion. You can even throw stuff in the back of it, and there's a significant little trunk back there versus my normal Mustang where you just don't really get a back seat or much of a trunk. So here's where I'm at with this. You know, 62 grand, then you put the amenities and all that kind of stuff in it. You're between $65,000 and $70,000 most likely. And then you're going to get the dealership markups on these because they are so incredibly hard to find and they're not making them right now. I mean, you're probably looking at least a $75,000 to $85,000 vehicle. Would I pay that? No, not for this. Now, it does remind me of kind of like Tesla Model 3 performance in terms of just how fast it is. And that's a pretty fast, darty little car. And so this thing really does hold its own. So if you just take the vehicle all by itself, it is pretty darn good. I mean, the performance is there. It's comfortable. This thing does a lot of things really well. So not a lot of complaints about the vehicle itself. It's just, you know, the cost of it and the fact that it wears a Mustang badge, I struggle with those two things just a little bit. But I do like this vehicle quite a bit. If I could get one, you know, really well down in price and I needed something really cool for daily driving, it wouldn't be bad at all. Well, and those are my thoughts on the brand new Mach-E Mustang GT. Very capable performance-wise, very comfortable for your whole family, so a big difference there. Obviously, you know, just look at how different these two vehicles really are. Should they both be wearing the Mustang nameplate, or did they kind of ruin it when they stuck the Mustang nameplate on the front of this small SUV? It really depends on who you ask. In my opinion, I wish they'd have come up with a different name for this particular car because it is so incredibly different. I feel like maybe it should have been just called something entirely different rather than take the pony car, the Mustang, the true heritage from many, many years of making rear-wheel drive cars and throwing it onto this. That's just my personal opinion on it. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments down below, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, Racer X.